Hi kids, welcome to another Kids Central Online. My name is Mrs. Amy Jennings. For those of you guys who do not know me, I am the Kid Ministry Director at North Central Church. So it has been so wonderful to see some of you guys back in church, to see you face to face. I've missed seeing all of you. And I cannot wait, for those of you who are not back yet, I cannot wait to see you sometime soon, face to face, back in our Kids Central space. So I wanted to mention something today. You guys might notice that the background changes frequently. Well, there's a reason for that. I'm not always at North Central with the Kids Central backdrop behind me. Sometimes I'm in my own home and I move around to different locations in my home. I like giving you guys a little bit of a different background to these videos. So I hope you're enjoying that. Anyways, today we are going to learn a new verse before we get into our Bible story. Last month, we talked about how Jesus is the light of the world. He is what our hearts need to grow. He is the truth we need so we can resist the darkness. He is the light of the world. Well, today we're going to be talking about something else Jesus said he is. Something that makes us satisfied. Do any of you guys have a guess as to what I'm going to be saying Jesus said he is? Right. Some of you guys might have guessed, maybe you didn't, but that's okay, that Jesus is the bread of life. So we're going to be talking about what that means exactly. Before we do though, let's say the memory verse one time through together. Jesus said, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again." John 6, verse 35. Why do we eat bread? Do any of you guys know? Yes, some of you might have said we eat bread because it's yummy, right? Especially when a hot loaf comes out of the oven and we put some butter on it and maybe a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. Yum. Are there any other reasons we might eat bread? Yes, when we're hungry. Bread is a very common food. It has been around for a very long time. People all over the world eat bread. So we eat bread when we're hungry. We eat it because it's yummy. Jesus is saying that he satisfies our hunger. He's something that is good to desire, like that warm, toasty bread that comes out of the oven. But Jesus isn't talking about satisfying our physical hunger, like when our bellies start to grumble and we want something to eat. That's not what he's talking about. He is talking about our spiritual hunger. Do any of you guys know what spiritual hunger might mean? It's kind of a hard concept to understand. But as human beings, God created us with a desire in our hearts. A desire that was meant to be satisfied in him. A desire for peace. A desire for joy. A desire for rest. A spiritual hunger that can only be satisfied by him. We can only find true peace, true rest, true joy in Jesus Christ. As human beings, we might try to fill ourselves, to fill our lives with other things that we think will satisfy that desire. things we think will give us peace or rest or joy. Maybe we try to fill it with the things we do, hobbies or sports. Maybe we try to fill it with people in our lives, our family, our friends. And although those things are good, they're not bad. Those things can never, ever satisfy that hunger. We cannot have a relationship with a person and expect that to fill us the same way God will. Do you know why? Yes, because people are not perfect. We fail, we sin, we let other people down sometimes. Do you know why hobbies and sports and toys and games, do you know why those things can't truly satisfy us? Yes, because those things don't last. They break, or we lose them, or we can't play our sports forever. God is perfect, and God lasts forever. So when Jesus is saying here, I am the bread of life, whoever comes to me will never be hungry again, he is saying that he gives us that satisfaction we desire. I'm gonna let you guys listen to the song right now, and then afterwards, we'll dive right into our story today.
You are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry. He who believes in me will never be thirsty. You are the bread of life. Jesus, you are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty. You are the bread of life. Jesus, you are the bread of life. This is my body that was broken. This is my blood that was shed for you. Take it and eat and drink it. Remember me. You are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty. You are the bread of life. Jesus, you are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. You are the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me never be thirsty. You are the bread of life. Jesus, you are the bread of life.
I'm going to read the story right out of the Bible. Normally, I read it to you guys from our Gospel Story Bible. So if you guys have a Bible and you want to join along with me, stop right here and run and grab it. All right, you guys ready? Let's get started. The Lord kept his word and did for Sarah exactly what he had promised. Do you guys remember what God promised to Sarah? Yes, he promised that he would give her a son. She would have a baby and call him Isaac. She became pregnant and she gave birth to a son for Abraham in his old age. This happened at just the time that God had said it would. And Abraham named their son Isaac, just like God had told him to do. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born, and Sarah declared, "God has brought me laughter." She was no longer laughing because she thought it was impossible. She was laughing out of pure joy and delight. God had promised her, and he kept his promise. "All who hear of this will laugh with me," she said. Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse a baby? Yet I have given Abraham a son in his old age. So that is some great news, right? Right here in our story. But we need to go back in time a little bit. We need to go back in time to before Sarah had Isaac. Abraham and Sarah tried to do things on their own. They tried to have a baby on their own effort. Sarah had a handmaiden who she gave to Abraham to have a baby with. Abraham did have a baby with Sarah's handmaiden named Hagar. This son's name was Ishmael. But God said, "Abraham, the promise that I have given you will not come through Ishmael. It will come through the baby I will give your wife Sarah. That baby's name will be Isaac." We see something by looking back here. Abraham for a little bit and Sarah for a little bit doubted God. They weren't sure that God was going to keep his promise because so much time had passed since the first time God had promised Abraham a son. So they tried doing things their own way. Now let's go back to our story today. In Genesis chapter 21, we're going to start at verse 8 to see what happened to Ishmael. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and Hagar, Sarah's handmaiden, making fun of her son Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, "Get rid of the slave woman and her son. He is not going to share the inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it." This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. Even though he wasn't the promised son, and even though Abraham had had Ishmael by doing things his own way, he was still Abraham's son. But God told Abraham, "Do not be upset over the boy and your servant Hagar. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants, your children and their children's children, will be counted. But I will also make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, Ishmael, because he is your son too." Let's talk about some things here. in this story. We see that Abraham and Sarah struggled in trusting God. God had promised them a son, but it didn't happen right away. So Abraham and Sarah came up with their own plan. Do you know that God knows we struggle with doubt sometimes too? Sometimes we try to do things our own way. But do you know that Jesus tells us to seek His way, and there will be no need to worry? Because what we see about God in our story today is that God fulfills all of His promises. God fulfilled His promise to Abraham and Sarah by giving them a son. We also see in our story today that God saved Ishmael and Hagar. He kept His promise and made a great nation out of Ishmael too. Even though he wasn't the promised son, He did not leave Ishmael and Hagar without a future, without a hope. So how do we see the picture of Jesus in this story? Do you know the Bible says that none of us can boast about or be proud about the things that we do? Because nothing we do can earn our salvation. We cannot rescue ourselves. We cannot make things right by our own efforts, like Abraham and Sarah tried doing. They tried having a son on their own. We are only saved through faith in Jesus Christ. He's the one who did all the work. He's the one who rescued us by dying on the cross, paying the price for our sin. None of us can boast or be proud and lift ourselves up in the things we do, because we can't do anything good apart from Jesus Christ. Just like Isaac was only given to Abraham and Sarah by God, they could not make it happen on their own effort. What a beautiful picture, again, of the hope and the rescue that comes through Jesus Christ. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. I will see you right back here next week for another Kids Central Online. Bye.